My husband's nephew was about to start first grade. My second sister-in-law called, her voice sounding very friendly. Sister-in-law, that house of yours in the top school district is still empty, right? Can we temporarily transfer our residency there? We just need the slot for school admission. Once the boy is enrolled, we'll move out immediately. Before I could even open my mouth, she beat me to the punch. Don't worry, I know you hate trouble. In return, when your kid goes to school and has difficult homework, just bring him over to ask my Jimmy. He's at the top of his class. I looked at my unweaned son in my arms and laughed. I refused flatly. No. On the other end, my sister-in-law Karen paused, seemingly surprised that I would be so blunt. Her voice immediately pitched up, becoming harsh. Why not? Leaving that house empty is a waste. We just need the residency registration. We're not actually moving in. I held my son and gently patted his back. Sister, that house is my pre-marital property. Matters involving residency registration are quite complicated. It's not convenient. Pre-marital property? Karen shrieked. What do you mean by that? You married David. You are now Smith, and your house is also a Smith house. Are you guarding against your husband's family now? What kind of logic is that? What's yours is ours. I didn't want to drag this out. Basically, the answer is no. With that, I hung up. Less than 5 minutes later, my mother-in-law called. Sarah, what is wrong with you? Your sister-in-law was speaking politely. Why did you hang up? Do you have no manners? I took a deep breath. Mom, the house is mine. I have the right to decide. What's the difference between yours and mine? We are family. Why are you being so calculating? My mother-in-law's voice was furious. Jimmy going to school is a big deal. It concerns the Smith family's reputation. As his aunt, don't you think it's outrageous not to help? We've already discussed it. We'll move the residency in, get him enrolled, and move it out immediately. It doesn't bother you at all. Why are you being so stubborn? I gave a faint smile. Saying it is easy, but what if you refuse to move out afterward? My mother-in-law choked for a moment, then screamed. What are you talking about? Who wants to cling to your shabby house, Sarah? Let me tell you this. You have to agree whether you want to or not. Otherwise, don't bother coming to the Smith house this weekend. She hung up. I looked at the child sleeping soundly in my arms, my eyes gradually turning cold. That evening, my husband David came home with a troubled look on his face.
Honey, Mom told me about it. Maybe we should just agree?
I looked at him. Do you also think we should agree? He avoided my gaze, wringing his hands.
It's not that. It's just that my mom, you know how she is. She has a sharp tongue, but a good heart. Besides, my brother and sister-in-law are very worried about Jimmy's situation. If we can help, we should lend a hand.
David. I cut him off. That house is the only keepsake my parents left me. When they bought it, they said it was for me and our child. Now your family wants to take the only thing I have to pave the way for someone else. Do you think that's reasonable? His face turned red.
But Jimmy is my biological nephew.
Does being a biological nephew give him the right to appropriate someone else's property? He choked on his words for a long time before managing to squeeze out a sentence.
Can't you be a little flexible? It's all family. You're making it very difficult for me.
I looked into those evasive eyes, stood up, and went to the bedroom. I'm making it clear, David. It's not happening. If you want to make your mother happy and satisfy your brother and sister-in-law, find a way yourself. Don't use my property as a gift. As soon as I entered the room, my phone vibrated. It was a message from my mother-in-law. If you don't agree, don't step foot in the Smith house ever again. The Smith family has no use for a cold-blooded daughter-in-law like you. I thought my firm stance would buy me a few days of peace, but I underestimated the thickness of Karen's face. The next afternoon, the doorbell rang. Looking through the peephole, I saw Karen with her son Jimmy, holding milk and fruit, grinning broadly. I didn't open the door, but the bell rang persistently. Sister-in-law, open the door. It's Karen. I know you're home. The lights are on. The noise woke my son, and he started crying. My face darkened, and I was forced to open the door. As soon as she saw me, she squeezed in, put the stuff in the hallway, and casually changed her slippers. Are you still mad at me? I spoke a bit too harshly yesterday. Please don't be angry. She spoke while pulling Jimmy inside. The boy was 6 years old this year, thin, with a cunning face and full of arrogance. As soon as he entered, he pointed at my son's crib and criticized it.
So big but still lying in this. How tacky.
Then he ran to the bookshelf and pulled out a hardcover book to mess with. My voice turned cold. Karen, please leave. Her face stiffened. What's wrong, sister-in-law? We came to visit, and now you're kicking us out? She pulled Jimmy in front as a shield. Jimmy, tell your aunt quickly. How much do you want to study at that top school? Jimmy knew how to play along perfectly. He immediately looked like he was about to cry.
Auntie, all my friends get to go to the elite school, only I can't go. Everyone says my parents are useless.
She also started sniffling. That's right, sister-in-law. I'm suffering so much. Please have mercy and help us just this once. The mother and son's coordinated act made me nauseous. I said it again. Please leave. Karen's expression changed instantly. Sarah, don't push your luck. I spoke nicely. What more do you want? It's just a house. What's the big deal? Then she turned to the door and shouted loudly. Neighbors, come and see. The rich sister-in-law is bullying her poor country relative. We just wanted to borrow an address for registration, and she's chasing us out like robbers. A few neighbors opened their doors slightly to watch. I trembled with anger and pointed straight at the door. Get out. She hugged her son, crying loudly. Just you wait, Sarah. This isn't over. The door slammed shut in front of me. Outside, I could still hear her crying and weaving stories about how cruel I was. Soon after, the building manager called, his voice hesitant.
Miss Sarah, someone claiming to be your relative just caused a disturbance in the lobby. It's having a bad impact. Is there some misunderstanding?
I leaned against the door and closed my eyes. I knew this was just the beginning. That evening, David came home, his face grim.
Honey, did Karen come over today?
Yes.
Did she cause a scene downstairs?
Yes. He slammed his hand on the sofa.
Why did she do that? It's so embarrassing.
I thought he would defend me, but instead he said,
Maybe we should just agree. If this continues, we'll lose face with the whole neighborhood. Is it worth it, honey?
I stared at him as if looking at a stranger. David, do you think if I just give in, everything will be peaceful? He lowered his head and whispered.
Well, should we make a big scene instead?
I laughed, tears welling up. Okay, I understand. He thought I had changed my mind, and his face lit up.
You agree? I'll call Mom right away.
David. I cut him off. I mean, I understand your choice. He froze. The doorbell continued to ring persistently. Sister-in-law, open the door, it's Karen. I know you're home, I can see the lights on. Karen stood outside calling. My child was woken up by the bell and started crying. My face darkened, and I had to open the door. Karen immediately squeezed inside, put her things in the hall, and changed her slippers as naturally as if she were family. Sister-in-law, look at you, are you still angry? I spoke a bit harshly yesterday, don't hold a grudge. As she spoke, she pulled little Jimmy into the house. The boy was 6 years old, skinny and small, but his eyes were darting around, full of cunning and arrogance. As soon as he entered the living room, he pointed at my child's crib and pouted.
So big and still sleeping in this. Such a baby.
He ran to my bookshelf, pulled out a hardcover book at random, and threw it around messily. I said it again. Please leave. My voice was cold as ice. The smile on Karen's face froze. Sister-in-law, what are you doing? We came to visit out of kindness. Why are you chasing people away? She pulled little Jimmy forward and started her whining act. Jimmy, tell your aunt how much you want to go to that school. The boy was very cooperative, immediately pursing his lips and pretending to cry.
Annie, all my classmates got into elite elementary, only I didn't. They even said my parents are useless.
Karen wiped her tears along with him. See, sister-in-law? Can you bear to see him laughed at by his friends? Please have mercy on us just this once. Help me out. The mother and son's coordinated performance made me nauseous. I said it one last time. Get out. Karen immediately stopped crying, her face turning dark. Sarah, don't push your luck. I begged, I was soft. What more do you want? It's just a shabby house. Is there a need to make such a big deal out of it? She suddenly shouted towards the door. Neighbors, come and see. The rich sister-in-law is bullying her poor country sister-in-law. It's just borrowing a residency for school, and she's pointing fingers and chasing us away like robbers. A few neighbors peeked their heads out to watch. I was trembling with anger, pointing straight at the door. Get out. Karen hugged little Jimmy, pretending to be terribly wronged, screaming as she went out the door. Just you wait, Sarah. This isn't over. You'll regret this. The door slammed in front of me. I heard her outside fabricating stories with the neighbors, and my blood boiled. Not long after, the building manager called, his voice polite.
Miss Sarah, hello. A woman claiming to be your relative just caused a scene in the lobby, having a bad influence. Is there any misunderstanding?
I leaned back against the door and closed my eyes. I knew this was only the beginning. That night, David came home, his face looking even worse than mine.
Honey, did Karen come over today?
Yes.
Did she make a scene downstairs?
Yes. David punched the sofa hard.
How could she be like that? It's so embarrassing.
I thought he would stand on my side, but his next sentence made me cold all over.
Honey, maybe we should just agree? If we keep making a scene like this, how will the neighbors look at us? Look, is it worth it over a residency registration?
I looked at him, suddenly feeling that this man was frighteningly strange. David, do you think if I just yield one step, everything will be fine? He lowered his head and whispered.
What else? Should we turn against them?
I laughed, tears welling up. All right, I understand. He thought I had softened and immediately rejoiced.
You agree? Great, I'll call Mom right away.
David. I cut him off. I mean, I understand. I clearly understand your choice. The smile on his face stiffened.
What do you mean by that?
Nothing. I stood up and walked towards the bedroom. I will go to the family dinner this weekend. He stared at me blankly, not understanding what I was saying, and I had no intention of explaining. Some things are useless to talk about. They have to see the consequences for themselves. The weekend came, the Smith family gathering. I carried my son and walked into my mother-in-law's house with David. Everyone was already in the living room. My father-in-law, mother-in-law, older brother Mike, sister-in-law Karen, and their precious little Jimmy. Seeing me, my mother-in-law didn't even bother to smile. She just snorted coldly and looked away. Karen looked triumphant, as if victory was already in her hands. David laughed awkwardly.
Mom, Dad, we're here.
My father-in-law sat in the main chair, leisurely sipping tea, not even lifting his eyelids.
You still know the way here? I thought once you grew wings, you wouldn't need this house anymore.
I silently carried my son and sat in the chair furthest away in the living room. David hurriedly went to his parents and whispered something. I heard my mother-in-law say. She agreed. Finally came to her senses. At least she knows what's good for her. Karen immediately sidled up, beaming. Sister-in-law, I told you, family doesn't hold grudges. Don't worry, once Jimmy goes to school, I'll love your son even more than my own. Little Jimmy ran up to me, pointed at my son in my arms, and shouted.
From now on, I'm your big brother. If you're not good, I'll hit you.
Karen just lightly patted his hand for show. Don't talk nonsense, you have to love your brother. I looked up at the boy with a face full of malice and spoke coldly. My son doesn't need your concern. Little Jimmy's face fell, and he turned to tattle.
Mom, she scolded me.
Karen's expression changed too, but since she was asking for a favor, she had to endure it. At the dinner table, the atmosphere was strangely awkward. My father-in-law cleared his throat and began acting the patriarch.
Sarah, since you came today, it means you've thought it through. Just proceed with sending little Jimmy to school.
His voice was firm, as if issuing an imperial decree.
Tomorrow, bring the property deed and household registration book to your brother-in-law, so he can handle the procedures.
Mike, the older brother who had been silent until now, looked up with a smirk.
Sister-in-law, sorry for the trouble. If you need anything in the future, just ask me.
I put down my chopsticks, looking at the whole family brazenly talking as if everything was a matter of course. What if I don't give it? One sentence made the dinner table instantly silent. All eyes fell on me, shocked, angry, unbelieving. My mother-in-law was the first to slam the table. Sarah, what do you mean? Are you playing with us? Karen also shouted. Didn't you already agree? Your husband told his mother, didn't he? How can you flip-flop like that? I looked at David. He was sitting next to me as if sitting on fire, sweating profusely.
Honey, didn't you say?
I said I would come to dinner. I enunciated every word clearly. I didn't say I agreed. You. My mother-in-law was so angry she pointed at me, her finger trembling. Rebellion. This is absolute rebellion. My father-in-law's face darkened.
Sarah, I'm asking you one last time. Do you agree or not?
I do not.
Good. Good. Very good.
He said good 3 times then slammed the table hard.
The Smith family doesn't need a daughter-in-law like you. David, divorce her.
David's face instantly went pale, and he jumped up to beg.
Don't be angry. Let's talk about this slowly.
What is there to talk about with a woman like her? Karen didn't forget to add fuel to the fire. She turned to look at me, her eyes vicious. Sarah, don't think we're helpless without you. Let me tell you, we've found someone. Even if you don't agree, we still have a way to move the residency in. Mike also laughed coldly.
Sister-in-law, don't push things to the point of no return. We just want to take care of the kids' education. Making a fuss like this benefits no one.
I looked at each greedy and shameless face, feeling no ripple of emotion in my heart. What chilled me the most was David. From beginning to end, apart from a few "don't be angry, let's talk," he didn't say a single word to defend me. His silence was complicity. Seeing I was still unmoved, my mother-in-law played her trump card. We looked into it. Getting someone to handle this costs $100,000. Since you won't help, you have to pay that money. Make me pay? I almost laughed at the audacity of this family. They couldn't rob me, so now they want me to pay for them to rob someone else? This logic must have been crushed by a falling rock at the dawn of time. My mother-in-law spoke as if it were obvious. Yes, you have to pay. If not for your selfishness and pettiness, we wouldn't have to spend this money unjustly. You caused us to spend it, who else should pay but you? Karen immediately chimed in. Exactly, 100,000 is nothing to you, but to us, it's a fortune. You must pay. Mike also knocked on the table to threaten.
Sarah, be reasonable and leave yourself a way out. Don't push us to this step.
I looked at each greedy and shameless face, then at David. My husband had his head completely bowed, not daring to look at me, as if his fire had been completely extinguished. My heart grew cold. I slowly stood up. The whole dining room fell silent. Everyone stared at me, thinking I was about to give in or explode. I laughed, a very calm laugh. Fine, I said. I'll pay that money. Everyone was stunned. Karen's face flashed with wild joy but also disbelief. My mother-in-law was also dumbfounded. What did you say? I said I will pay that 100,000. I repeated it and took out my phone. David immediately looked up, shock and confusion in his eyes.
Honey,
I didn't bother paying attention to him. Right in front of the whole family, I dialed a number. Hello, Director Wilson? This is Sarah. My voice wasn't loud, but in the eerily quiet dining room, every word rang out clearly. Karen and my mother-in-law glanced at each other, their eyes full of confusion mixed with contempt, as if mocking me for putting on a show. I ignored those looks and continued speaking into the phone. Yes, it's me. I have a small matter to trouble you with regarding the review of admission quotas for this fall semester at Elite Elementary School. Upon hearing the words Elite Elementary School, Karen's back straightened instantly as if electrocuted. Here's the situation. I have information about a family named Smith with a son named Jimmy Smith. They are planning to use unofficial means to falsify residency information to secure an admission slot. I looked up, my gaze landing precisely on the oily face of my brother-in-law Mike. They also stated they have contacted an acquaintance who can bypass the entire official process and handle this smoothly. I suspect this isn't an isolated case, but possibly a chain of fake documentation rings behind it. The person on the other end said something, and I nodded, my voice becoming serious. Yes, I understand. I will compile a detailed list of their information and send it to you. Also, regarding the acquaintance they mentioned, I think we should ask the inspection committee to intervene and investigate. This kind of behavior seriously damages educational fairness and is extremely serious in nature. I hung up. The dinner table was now silent as a grave, quiet enough to hear a pin drop. My father-in-law's hand shook as he held his teacup. My mother-in-law gaped, looking like a strangled chicken. Mike and Karen, who had just been arrogant and bossy, now had faces as white as paper, cold sweat streaming down their temples. My mother-in-law's trembling voice, mixed with sobs, broke the silence first. "Sarah, just now, who did you call? Who is Director Wilson?" I put the phone in my pocket, my movements calm and leisurely. "Director Wilson?" I glanced at them, my voice as bland as plain water. "He is the Director of General Education Enrollment Supervision at the City Department of Education, my direct superior." Karen screamed, jumping up from her chair. "What? What did you say? You work at the Department of Education?" Her voice distorted with panic. "Impossible. Didn't you just work as an office clerk at some small company?" "That's what David said." I looked at David. His face was pale, his lips trembling, unable to say a word. I answered for him. "Yes, I did say I worked at a company, but I never specified which one. My workplace is a special unit that requires confidentiality from the outside, so yes, I'm just a small office clerk." I deliberately emphasized the words small clerk. My mother-in-law slumped into her chair, muttering, "It's over, it's over." The teacup in my father-in-law's hand fell to the floor and shattered. He pointed at me, his fingers shaking.
You? How could I?
I looked straight at him, my eyes cold as ice. "I am just performing my job duties properly. Someone is intentionally violating the law, damaging fairness in education. As a supervisor, I reported it and requested an investigation. Is there something wrong with that?" No. It's a misunderstanding. It's all just a misunderstanding." Karen finally came to her senses. She lunged at me, trying to grab my hand, but I dodged. She fell to her knees with a thud, hugging my legs, wailing. "Sister-in-law, I was wrong. I was truly wrong. We were just joking. I didn't intend to actually do it. Please call Director Wilson quickly. Tell him it was just a misunderstanding. Hurry." "Joking?" I looked down at her from above. Screaming and crying downstairs was also a joke? Forcing me to cough up $100,000 for your fraud at a family dinner was also a joke? Karen, the price for your joke is not cheap at all. Mike also panicked, rushing over to pull Karen.
You idiot, get up.
At that moment, he turned to me, trying to force a smile uglier than crying.
Sister-in-law? Sarah, look, we are family after all. My wife is uneducated and speaks nonsense. Please don't hold it against her. That call. Can you call back and explain a bit?
Explain? I asked back. Explain what? Explain that you only intended to but hadn't acted yet? Mike, do you think the inspection committee will believe a verbal explanation or the $100,000 sitting in your bank account? Mike's face turned green instantly. The last drop of blood vanished. I turned my head one last time to look at David. You knew from the beginning, didn't you? He did not know where I worked. He just didn't know I had enough power to turn the tables like that. Or rather, he deliberately kept it vague so that in his family's eyes, I was just an obedient daughter-in-law, a soft persimmon to be squeezed. David closed his eyes tight and nodded slightly.
I just wanted peace in the house.
Peace, my foot. I replied coldly. Sacrificing me for your family's harmony. David, you calculated well. I didn't bother looking at him anymore. I held the child I had been carrying the whole time. I turned and left. Behind me were Karen's throat-tearing screams, my mother-in-law's pathetic moans, and my father-in-law's frantic cursing. Stepping out of that nauseating house, I felt the air outside had never been fresher. I hugged my son and walked away step by step, more determined than ever. From today on, I have nothing to do with that house. What happened next was faster and more intense than I imagined. The next morning, Director Wilson called me personally, his voice unable to hide his outrage.
Sarah, you did very well this time. We followed the lead you provided, and who knew we'd dig up a huge case. It turns out the acquaintance Mike found is a notorious broker in the city's education sector, involved in a series of fake records to illegally seize school slots. There were even admissions staff from several schools aiding them.
My call was the first tile toppling a whole row of dominoes. The inspection committee and the police coordinated to handle it. That very afternoon, that acquaintance and several related individuals were taken in for investigation. Mike, as the briber, although he hadn't transferred the money yet, his intent was clear and evidence ample, so he was also invited to assist the investigation and detained for 48 hours before being released. His small repair company, because the boss was under investigation, had several contracts under negotiation cut, and workers came demanding wages. The capital chain broke overnight, bringing it to the brink of bankruptcy. As for Karen's darling, Jimmy, his application to Elite Elementary was rejected outright, and his name was put on a dishonesty list. This means that throughout his 9 years of compulsory education, any public school in the city receiving his file will check it extremely strictly. Just a small error will lead to immediate disqualification. Karen went completely mad. She rushed to my apartment complex, standing downstairs screaming and cursing. "You are a snake, a venomous woman. You don't care about family ties, ruining my son's life." I didn't even bother to open the curtains. I made one call to property management and another to the police. The police arrived and took her to the station for disturbing public order to warn her. Not resigned, she ran to the gate of my workplace to cause a scene. Perhaps she thought I would be afraid of the impact on my reputation. Unfortunately, she chose the wrong place. The gate of my workplace is guarded by armed soldiers year-round. Before she could shout a few sentences, she was taken into the security room by 2 stone-faced officers for tea. When Director Wilson found out, he called me to his office, his face serious.
"Sarah, you handled this according to regulations, nothing wrong. But family matters grind down one's will the most. If needed, the unit will step in to clear those people away for you."
I shook my head. "Thank you, Director, but there's no need. They're like cicadas in late autumn, hopping around for just a few more days. I want to handle it myself." The director nodded in approval.
"Very good. You have grit. But remember, the unit is always your solid support."
Leaving the office, I received dozens of WeChat messages from David. The content was nothing more than begging for forgiveness, hoping I would be generous and let his family off. He said his mother was so angry she fell ill, his brother was about to go bankrupt, and his nephew had no school to accept him.
"Honey, we are family. Do you really want to be this heartless?"
I looked at that message and found it ridiculous. When I was being attacked by his whole family, why didn't he say we were family? I blocked all his contacts. Then I asked a lawyer to draft a divorce agreement. I sent the divorce papers to David. He rushed to my door, banging frantically.
"Sarah, open the door. Speak clearly. Do you really want a divorce? Why?"
I opened the door, looking at him coldly. "Why?" I asked back. "Do I need to remind you what you did?"
"Wasn't it just a family matter? I just wanted to borrow the residency. Is it worth a divorce? Is it worth making it this big?"
His eyes were bloodshot.
"Not worth it."
I looked at him, enunciating clearly. "David, this isn't just about a residency registration. It's about how you and your family never respected me. In your eyes, I'm just a tool to be sacrificed at any time for your family's benefit. When my rights and yours conflict, you are always the first to choose to sacrifice me. David, you aren't stupid, you are evil." He was choked by my words, and after a while, he slumped against the wall in despair.
"My mom is really sick. The doctor said if she gets another shock, she might have a stroke."
He started playing the emotional card. "That's your mother, not mine." I replied bluntly. "She's sick because she lived selfishly and demanded too much for years. It has nothing to do with me."
"My brother is also done for. Now he drinks all day and beats my sister-in-law."
"That's their marital issue, nothing to do with me."
"And Jimmy, he cries every day, saying he doesn't want to go back to the countryside to study. If you knew this, why did you do it?"
I looked at him coldly, without a shred of softness. "David, sign it. The house and car are my premarital assets. You won't get a cent. I'll raise the child. I don't need your support. We divorced peacefully. That's me saving the last bit of face for you." He stared at me, his eyes full of resentment and grievance.
"Sarah, you are so cruel."
I didn't say anything, just coldly closed the door. Outside was the sound of banging as if trying to break it down and his helpless screaming. I hugged my child, who had just been woken by the noise, and hummed a lullaby gently. My world was finally about to be at peace. But I underestimated Karen's madness. A few days later, a sensational post began spreading virally on major forums and social networks in the city. The title was "Exposing the Dark Backstage of Elite Elementary. Powerful Daughter-in-Law Colludes with Officials to Crush Poor Relatives." The poster was anonymous, but the post was full of photos and tear-jerking language. In the post, I was turned into a vicious woman relying on power in the education sector to oppress poor relatives. Karen and her family were described as simple country folk who just humbly asked for residency for their child's education, but were insulted and chased out of the house like criminals by me. I supposedly used my power with just one phone call to destroy their whole family: brother bankrupt, nephew out of school, mother-in-law bedridden. It even attached some candid photos of me standing at the apartment gate looking coldly as Karen was taken away by police, a distant photo of my workplace headquarters with the caption, "This is where she holds power," and a photo of my son. Blurred, but clearly an infant. At the end of the post, the author wrote with resentment, "Where is justice? Where is the law? Can money and power allow one to do whatever they want and drive ordinary people to a dead end? Hope the online community speaks up to demand justice for us." That post was written very emotionally and sensationally. Every word poked at the crowd's nerves. In an instant, public opinion exploded. The comments section was full of curses attacking me. "Dan Trian, see you Dan Mang, this woman is so evil. Being family, was that necessary? Must investigate. Investigate the root of this worm in the education sector. Drag her into the light. Dig up her history. Pity the child having such a mother, truly unlucky." My phone blew up, filled with harassment calls from strange numbers and abusive messages. David also sent me a message, his tone full of gloating and smugness.
Sarah, see that? This is the power of public opinion. It's not too late to turn back. Apologize to my family, calm the public, and we'll pretend nothing happened.
I looked at the message and laughed. He thought this was his ace? He thought these cheap, dirty tricks could force me to submit? Too naive. I calmly took a screenshot of the message, then forwarded the link to the post along with the screenshot of David's message to Director Wilson, adding one sentence. "Director, it seems it's time to carry out a special campaign to completely handle the problem of school admission fraud via district residency. I request permission to take charge." Director Wilson's reaction was even faster than I thought. He replied almost immediately.
Approved. Proceed. Whatever support you need, just say it. Inspection committee, cybersecurity, police, everyone will fully cooperate.
Immediately after was another message.
Sarah, you've been wronged, but this is also an opportunity. An opportunity to strip away the rotting pus hiding in the system.
I looked at the phone screen, a feeling of heroism rising in my heart. "You want to make a big scene? Fine, I'll make it so big you can't handle it." In the following days, I devoted myself entirely to work. I headed a special task force with the theme, "Rectifying Admission Fraud via School District Residency and Related Corruption." First, we asked cybersecurity to trace the IP address of that sensational post. Unsurprisingly, the IP came from the rental house of Mike, David's brother. Second, we coordinated with the official social media page of the City Department of Education to publish a long situation report. This announcement had no emotional words, only facts. First, regarding Jimmy's rejected admission file, the notice attached a scan of the household registration of Karen and Mike's family, clearly stating the residency was not within the elite elementary recruitment zone, making them ineligible. Rejecting the file was completely in accordance with regulations. Second, regarding the accusation of abuse of power, the notice affirmed that I am a supervisory officer, after discovering a conspiracy to bribe and falsify documents for admission fraud. I promptly reported it to superiors and authorities. This action was correct according to duty and fully referenced current laws. Third, regarding Mike's company bankruptcy, the notice simply stated, Mr. Smith is currently under investigation for signs of commercial bribery, and the company's collapse is unrelated to the education sector. Fourth, and the heaviest part, for the first time, the notice publicized the entire criminal ring led by that acquaintance. This was a ring forging residency and property certificates, helping dozens of unqualified students enter top schools. The illicit money involved amounted to millions. And the fuse that detonated this entire case was the active bribery attempt by Mike and Karen. At the end of the situation report was a bold black line: the internet is not a lawless place. Regarding malicious slander, disclosure of citizens' personal information, and inciting cyber violence, our unit has coordinated with the police to open an investigation and will pursue legal responsibility according to regulations. As soon as the notice was posted, public opinion immediately reversed. People who were typing curses at me just days ago now seemed to have collective amnesia. A new wave of comments flooded in. Dan Truyen, see you Dan Mang, whoa, what is this? Top-tier plot twist. Turns out the villain is the accuser. I suspected it couldn't be that simple. That family is scummy. Tried to go through the back door and then stabbed someone in the back. Support a thorough investigation. Sweep away the worms in education. Those wanting to loop the law must be cleared too. Ms. Sarah is a true modern anti-corruption boss, so cool. Karen and Mike were completely stunned. They didn't expect the dirty water they threw to not only fail to harm me but splash back, burning them clean. The police quickly stepped in with charges of slander and infringing on citizens' personal information. Karen and Mike were criminally detained for causing serious social impact. They weren't even allowed bail. Hearing the news, my mother-in-law immediately had a stroke and had to be rushed to the ER. Although her life was saved, she was paralyzed on one side, her mouth twisted and speech unclear. My father-in-law kept vigil by the hospital bed, his hair turning white overnight. David rushed to my workplace intending to meet me, but was blocked by security at the gate. He stood there screaming that I was cruel, heartless, and immoral. I stood in my office looking down through the glass, coldly watching that panicked, desperate figure. That used to be my husband. Now he was ridiculous and pitiable. This drama ended in a way I never expected but was truly deserved. Mike and Karen, with clear evidence and serious social consequences, were finally sentenced for slander and disturbing public order. The prison term wasn't too long but enough to leave a stain they could never wash off. Their son, Jimmy, since both parents went to jail and had no one to care for him, was sent back to the countryside to live with his frail grandparents. My mother-in-law, after the stroke, survived but was left with severe sequelae, unable to speak clearly or care for herself. My father-in-law ran between home and hospital every day, completely broken. The Smith family officially fell apart. The divorce between David and me went surprisingly smoothly. Perhaps he understood that dragging it out was useless. At the Civil Affairs Bureau door, he looked at me one last time, his eyes complex, hate, regret, and a bit of remorse.
Sarah, you won,
He said, his voice hoarse. I replied calmly. I never thought about winning against anyone. I just didn't want to continue losing myself. After speaking, I held my son and turned away, not looking back. My life finally returned to peace. The apartment in the school district was returned to its inherent quiet. It was no longer a piece of fat meat in the eyes of others, but just a small home for me and my son. Thanks to my excellent performance in this investigation campaign, I was specially promoted to Deputy Director of Supervision. Director Wilson patted my shoulder, laughing.
Sarah, a rough diamond like you finally shines.
I smiled slightly without saying anything. I'm not a gem, I'm just a stone. A stone that, after being smashed and crushed so many times, finally revealed its hardest core. That day I took my son for a walk in the park below the apartment. The sun was beautiful. My son toddled on the grass, giggling as he walked. In a corner not far away, a figure in a sanitation worker's uniform quietly swept leaves. His movements were slow, his back hunched as if bearing too many of life's burdens. A breeze blew and he looked up. I saw that face. It was Mike. The The person who once arrogantly ordered me around at the dinner table was now wearing a baggy orange reflective vest, his face gaunt, his eyes lifeless. Our eyes met for a moment in the air. He panicked and lowered his head, not even having the courage to look at me. The family bond that once existed had been traded by them for a $100,000 bribe to the rules. Now I don't need to pity him because he is paying the right price for his greed back then. A year later, my life is now quiet and complete. My son knows how to babble mommy, transmitting infinite energy to me every day like a little son. My work has also stabilized. The success of that investigation campaign made me stand out in the industry and, more importantly, helped me find the true meaning of this job, protecting principles, protecting fairness. That makes me feel more secure than any achievement. I still hear a few things about David and his family from old neighbors occasionally. I heard that after the divorce, he left the city, no one knows where. I heard his father sold the ancestral home to gather money to treat my mother-in-law, now living temporarily in a dark, damp basement. I heard Karen didn't dare return to the countryside after getting out of prison and disappeared completely. Those who tried to drag me into the mud ended up burying themselves in the hole they dug. As for me, I have long stepped onto a path flooded with sunlight. On the weekend, I took my son to a suburban farm. Seeing real cows and sheep for the first time, the boy was flushed with joy, running around chasing butterflies. I sat on the grass watching my son laugh carefree, my heart suddenly feeling strangely soft. My phone rang. It was Director Wilson.
Sarah, next week there's a professional exchange course at the National Ministry of Education. You're going for a month, okay?
I was a bit surprised. But my son is still small. You can hire a reliable nanny or send him to a childcare center. The unit will support you to the max. The director laughed on the phone.
This is a rare opportunity. Your ability is very good. You should go further, see wider. Don't keep confining yourself in this small corner.
Hanging up, I looked at my son running in the distance, silent for a long time. Going to the Capitol, stepping onto a higher platform, looking at a wider world. I never dared to dream of those things before. The family upheaval that I thought would destroy me back then unintentionally helped me break the shell imprisoning me, letting me see a new future full of possibilities. My son ran until tired and threw himself into my arms, looking up with his tiny face to ask,
Mommy, will we still live in that house with many books later?
Yes, because that is our home. I hugged my son tightly, looking up at the blue sky in the distance, my eyes determined. But I will take you to even higher places. Your future will not be built on anyone's sacrifice, but constructed from fairness and principles. And I will ensure that every inch of ground you step on is clean, level, and beyond suspicion.